Welcome to the Pool Podcast. I am your host, Big Jack, and I have today with us Ryan Stream. Ryan, welcome to the show.
Hey, man, appreciate you, Jack. Jesse, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be on here, guys. I love this. I love how life brings people together for a greater cause. So let's dive in, man.
Yeah, absolutely. So listen, I know a little bit of your background. I watched some of your videos. You're an Army veteran, motivational speaker. You're a bestseller. Tell us a little bit about that and maybe a little bit about your journey too, because I know it wasn't always that.
Yeah, I love that. First and foremost, I'm a man that is just learning. I think titles are amazing, but the credentials only take you so far, right? As soon as you make a shot, what happens? You got to keep on shooting, keep on learning, and keep on growing. So throughout my learning process, learning from great leaders, I've learned how to be a great motivational speaker, a musician. I'm a 2-time Army veteran, entrepreneur, best-selling author. And most importantly, man, I'm a father. I have 2 daughters and a wife. I've been married for 13 years. And, we serve the King above, man. And he's put me in the right rooms with the right people. So thankful for being here today, but also growing through the struggles because they are steps. And sometimes we have to go through those steps to learn to show other people how to grow through those steps, man. So I'm stepping along, brother.
This segment of the Pool Podcast is brought to you by Creekside Recovery. People like yourself, they have content out there and people have heard a lot of the things before. I'm not looking for anything more original other than the fact that I'm just curious what a day looks like for you, man.
Yeah, I love that. Being an entrepreneur, we have a million things going on, right? Life is chaotic. So I always tell people you have to win the morning, right? That's getting up for me. It's getting up, saying a prayer, reading something just really quick from the Bible. Even if I don't have time to open up the Bible, I just say, hey, ChatGPT, give me a quick Bible story. Bust it out while I'm on right now a 5-mile walk, 11-mile bike ride, and then I work out every morning, and then I start my day. Who the heck has time for that, right? In December, I was crushed inside of my semi. My wife and I, we own a semi-truck company, and I was crushed in it, man, and it almost killed me, and it really made me look at life different. Serious, man, I'm a cat. I'm on life 8, so I'm real close to just probably clocking out, man, but, always win the morning. Days change, kid stuff happens, wife things happen, and life happens. So I tell people, get up early, say your prayers, read, get the workout in, and then clock into work. Clock in for yourself. For me, it's sending out messages, checking social media. I was just recovering, man. Broken wrist, broken ribs, bruised lungs, nerve damage, and that's not counting my head injuries or my black spots on my eyes.
Jesus.
A lot of times people, when they wake up, they don't have purpose or direction. So we know this with psychology. So they start going the wrong way, right? Whether it be pornography, addictions, alcohol, fighting, right? There's different directions that they can go. But I always tell people you have to have purpose. And if even winning the morning, if you don't know what you're doing, at least you win the morning, and then you can set out on the next step. So. Yeah. But I'm the lucky dad that gets to help my wife take the kids to school, and right now is my slow season. But when seasons get quick, I'm out on the road. I'm flying places. Last year I had 14 shows in 1 month. But
holy mackerel!
Yeah, serious, man. But when I'm down, brother, since December I wrote another book. It's called Lead Like a Legend: 5 C's to Great Leadership. And then I wrote a children's book called Heroes on the Playground. And then I just graduated with my psychology degree and my family science degree since December. So
congratulations.
Thank you, brother. Capitalize on every moment. And if you don't know what to do, serve somebody.
Yeah, absolutely. When all else fails, help somebody.
Amen.
That was some of the best advice that was ever given to me. Anytime I'm in a rut, it's like, oh, that's pretty easy. Just go help somebody, right? And then all of a sudden you feel better about yourself. You help somebody, so they're feeling better.
Amen.
It's just the best.
I don't listen to much music. So when people say, what inspires you to write music? It's probably the people that I listen to, right? Because as we know, whatever you think about, whatever you speak about, you become, right? The stuff that we are putting into our mind, right? We're listening to, as people probably already know this, your brain's a computer. So, right, if you're listening to positive things, if you're talking positively, if you're reading positive, those are all these things being uploaded into our brain, right? And then thoughts become actions, right? So if I'm eating right here on the desk, you got bananas and fruits and healthy drinks, right? Our body is our factory, right? When I'm going somewhere, I want people to be like, he looks like a motivational speaker. He speaks like a motivational speaker, and he acts like a motivational speaker. So if we're putting things into our mind that are good, well, most likely we're going to speak good and do good, right? If we put good things into our body, most likely our body, our factory is going to run good. So I just remind people, whatever you think about, whatever you speak about, you will become, because that was told to me in the 2nd grade after I was adopted by a motivational speaker that changed my life.
Well, I want to get into that. The power of manifestation really comes to mind when you were saying that stuff, right? It's
Amen.
like, you think, therefore you are sort of thing. It's, the human spirit in general is just so powerful in the sense that it can manifest these things if you have that kind of attitude. But like going back to what you said originally, it's like consistency, right? So it's not like I can do this 3 days a week and expect my life to change. And maybe you get a day off, and maybe it's 6 out of 7, you got a better shot or what have you. But for the most part, you got to have some form of consistency.
Amen. And you just said it. Consistency is actually my favorite word. Well, I have the 5 C's in my book, but the one is consistency, and that's where people quit, right? Things might come easy the first time, right? Somebody might be excellent or talented at a certain thing, and it might come easy for them. But there might be somebody else that has to do a whole bunch of work and stay consistent for so long. But as we know, that beats talent in the end.
It does.
But the same with health. Addiction, going to addiction, man. I was an addict for a couple years, and if I wanted to change, boy, that took consistency. You know what I'm saying? But back to the manifestation. I was working out in the gym a couple years ago, and there was this man that he became my friend. At the time, I was working in the coal mine, and he went and, he prayed to God, I'll change my life if you allow me to catch this kid that he and his friends went into the mine, and he got lost. And all of his friends made it out but that little boy. And so it was a search and rescue mission, and he was a police officer. And he just said, please, maybe he wasn't living the life that he wanted to live, but his prayer was, I'll be a better man, I'll be a better father, I'll not put my work ahead of my family, kind of a thing. And there were some things that he needed to work out. Said a prayer. He was the guy that found this kid. So that was just a neat story about him. We built the common ground on that mine story, right? If you want to build a relationship with people, the fastest way is first to compliment them, smile, call them by name. But if you want to build anything with them, it's common ground. So mine and his common ground was, I worked in the coal mine. Oh crap, I was in the coal mine before finding a little kid, right? And we built the relationship off that. But he told me something that stuck with me. He said, Ryan, the most dangerous person in the world is a wannabe gangster. But it also goes for those who are trying to become something. We call it manifestation. Other people call it a wannabe, right? So I always tell people you have to be a wannabe before you actually become. It's
that fake it till you make it sort of thing, right?
Yep, absolutely.
I mean, acting as if it has power in it for sure.
Oh, amen to that. If I want to be smart, I better act smart. If I want to be strong, I better start acting and thinking like I'm strong. You know what I mean? So
Well, listen, I didn't learn half the things I knew in life until I started getting around really smart people, right? I'm literally a mosaic of everybody that I've ever met in my entire life. I try to take a few really good things from each person that I've ever met and put those into my life. They probably have some things that I don't want, but there's certain aspects of almost every interaction I have with every person that can be used as good that I see. And I always try to do that. So I love hearing stories about how, because I believe God puts people in your life for all the right reasons. Without finding recovery, without finding that's how I was introduced to my higher power, right? Is through recovery. I had to be beaten down into a state of reasonableness. The death of my ego from everything that I thought I was at some point and then realized I wasn't, right? Because I guess I was sort of that wannabe, but I also wasn't willing to learn. And so I wasn't teachable. And so when you have that and you come from like this ego place where, I got this and don't you know who I am sort of attitude, you'll never learn anything. And if you stop learning, you don't progress because the world's progressing whether we do or not. Right?
Yeah. Amen. I love how you said that. And I was in the same place as you at one point. But as soon as you level up and put yourself in a situation where there's no way you could walk into the room and think you're big bad, right? Those experiences that you and I have both had. So I challenge people to make themselves feel uncomfortable, right? If you're the biggest, baddest person in the room, which I hope you are, as a man, I hope you are. I hope you could, fight on the right side of life and everything that life and the adversary throws at you. I hope you are the biggest, baddest guy, because God needs those types of warriors. But at the same time, you need to put yourself in a position to grow, and you cannot learn without struggle, and struggle creates strength and growth. So if you want to be real strong, put yourself in
uncomfortable situation.
Uncomfortable position. That's the only way we learn.
I agree 1,000%. If you don't mind going back to a little bit of childhood and things of that sort, I mean, I'm just interested in hearing your story and how you got here.
Well, I appreciate that. Everybody has a story, and I just want to start with that. A lot of times people say to me, man, I don't know if I could share my story because my story's not as bad as yours. My friends, listen, everybody has a story. And my story today, it may not resonate with some of you. Somebody else's story might resonate with you better. But we all were children, right? It's a blessing to live and be a child. Not everybody gets to grow old, right? So if you're listening to this today, you are blessed, you are wanted. And I just wanted to start off with, people love you. I love you. I don't know where you are at in your journey of life, but remember that life was designed and it's supposed to kick our butt, and it's supposed to learn. So one thing I've always said is pack it on, God. Let me show you how strong I can be. And that started when I was a kid. I was born in East LA. Why did you end up in a homeless shelter? Why did you go to foster care? The truth, we'll keep it simple and short with just this part. My mother was raped twice by the age of 12 years old, and both of her parents died.
Jesus.
My mother, she tried to find love, right? The superheroes, right? We just talked about like the guys, the heroes, man. And she found a villain. And at the time, I thought this guy was my dad. Throughout my whole life, I thought he was my dad. About 8 months ago, I found out my uncle was my dad. Pretty crazy, right?
That is fascinating.
But so my mom fell in love with this man. Charming guy, handsome, short, muscly, had a nice car. Many things that would attract the opposite. But he was a villain, man. He would beat my mother. He and my mom, sadly, they used drugs. The nightlife was kind of their space. And from what I understand, obviously, this was just said to me, but he beat my mother into a coma. And keep in mind, my mom, like all women, right? They're the most beautiful things about life. They bring life. And my mother, she just had a personality and just a smile that made people want to be around her. But sadly, when you make wrong choices, bad things happen. And that both happened for my mom and my dad at the time. When my mom woke up from her coma, she grabbed me and my other two brothers. I was the youngest at the time. And we moved from California to Colorado.
Okay.
And when we got to Colorado, we lived on government assistance. My mom tried her very best. We lived in a really tiny home. And I just remember my brothers, we would run all over town, man. My mom, she sure tried, but she couldn't get away from drugs. She couldn't get away from that life. And I remember one night seeing my mom after she got beat by some man. And I thought to myself, who would do this?
So this is another new person. This is another
a new individual.
So she just had a bad picker.
She had a bad picker, man. And there was throughout my childhood, I often saw, my mother was married multiple times. Sadly, she took her life at the age of 34 years old.
I'm so sorry, man.
Yeah, thank you, man. And I always wanted to be a hero for my mom. Now that you said that, that's what we want, right? We want to defend our mom and help our mom, and our mom's our mom. And I was adopted, so I don't get that. I don't have that relationship, and man, I want that relationship. But I remember her seeing her bloody, and I thought, who would do this to my mom? And I was just a little boy at the time, and my mom got put in jail for whatever reason, I don't know. But I remember this was my first time I get to show my mom how brave and hero-like I can be. So I ran and escaped from the babysitter. I ran down to the jail and I started screaming as loud as I could, "Mom!" And I started running around the Delta, Colorado jail. And finally, surprisingly, my mom came to the window. Surprisingly. And as soon as she saw me, she was not happy about my heroism that I displayed.
No.
Yeah. As you all can imagine, my mom was very upset. She screamed at me like every parent would. "What the heck are you doing here? You get your little butt home right now." And she snapped her fingers and she told me that she loved me, but she pointed to the direction of our house. And I ran to the other side of the road, and I was upset, man, because this didn't go as planned.
What was the plan? You were going to break her out?
Yeah. And in my mind, I didn't even have it figured out, but I just thought, okay, well, Superman could do it.
Yeah, I'll rescue her. I got
exactly.
this.
I was 5, 6 years old. This is one of my earliest, best memories.
Mm-hmm.
And when I got to the other side of the road, I turned to look at my mom. And you could imagine what she did. She started to cry. And she put her head down. And, I don't think that she really ever put her head back up. My dad came and picked us up. My mom just gave birth to another son, right, from another man. And she couldn't get on her feet, so we jumped in the back of a truck. I don't even know whose truck it was. And we went from Delta, Colorado, all the way to Utah, Provo, Utah. When we had gotten to Provo, Utah, my dad lied to my mom. We had nowhere to live. I remember we would walk around the town, and my dad was an alcoholic. He would do drugs. He was angry, and now that I get a little bit older and I hear about their life, my dad now said that they lived in an abandoned train.
Wow.
My grandpa had 27 kids, and
holy mackerel.
When he was hungry as a kid, they'd throw him a tortilla. It was pretty much like you fend for yourself.
Sure.
And as I got older and I started to learn and realize, I learned about forgiveness, and we'll get into the steps of how I changed my life, and that's one of them. But we would walk all over the town, and I remember my dad being on substances or angry, and I remember I couldn't even put my shoes on. I was about 6 years old, and my feet were burning on the asphalt, and he wouldn't stop, and he wouldn't help me, and we would sleep under a bridge. And then we got a car and we would park it at a park to sleep at night. And I remember it didn't matter how brave I thought I was. I remember many times being so afraid.
Yeah.
Even kicking the seat saying, "Dad, please, I don't want to sleep here." Mm-hmm. There was a family member that said, "Hey, why don't you have your children?" And again, I'm a child, so this is just what I've learned from other people and what I remember seeing. "Bring your children to come live at my house." And we got to their house, and it was this, I went back to assess and look, and it was just a crappy house, man. Mm-hmm. They had a garage. People were living in the garage, in the shack where you put your shovels. Mm-hmm. My brothers and I lived in that shack for the cold Utah wintertime.
No plumbing.
No plumbing, man.
No electricity,
heater,
probably.
A space heater that just warmed us, but I remember we just had blankets piled on top of us.
Good Lord.
And my dad got arrested, right? And he was on the news, so the cops called. They took him away, and when he got out, we loaded up in the truck and we just started to drive. And we drove about 100 miles to a small city, and we lived in a homeless shelter. And, I remember my brothers and I being so hungry that we would walk down the stairs, and as soon as the nighttime shift lady would turn her back, my brothers and I, we'd race into the kitchen and we would grab a pie and we would eat the pie. During the day, we would ask people for food. And at a homeless shelter, they feed you, but it's not enough. Mm-hmm. Obviously, that's why my brothers and I were asking people for food. And I think at this time, my dad, when things go wrong, it's a lot of stress. And the older I get, the more I am forgiving to him, right? When you don't have a job and you have children, that's a very stressful situation.
Well, I can only imagine, right? Yeah. The pressure.
Yeah, the pressure absolutely.
Especially if he was an alcoholic or an addict too, right? I mean, not having the tools to be able to do that and provide, that's self-defeating in itself, right?
Yeah, not having a family or going to a state or the side of the state where, as I look through this, I'm just like, man, you went to that side of the town, you didn't know, that side of the state of Utah, you didn't know anybody because I don't remember meeting anybody. We lived at a homeless shelter with your children. And I remember just walking all over the place, and possibly he was looking for jobs. But I met a hero, and it was the first hero I've ever met. Outside of the homeless shelter, there was a bowling alley pretty close to it. And I remember these two old men were sitting in front of this bowling alley, and they had a box of California raisins, and my stomach growled. And my brothers and I bravely walked up to this man and said, "Could we have some of your raisins?" And the old man, he and his friend looked at each other and they smiled and introduced themselves. Then they opened up the box of raisins, and I thought he was going to put his old finger inside and give my brothers and I a raisin. But instead, he gave me the whole box. "And that's all I have, but I'll let you have all of it," he said. I realized in that moment when somebody does something kind for you, like it made me feel so good because I was hungry, but it was the smile that put on my brothers and our faces. Mm-hmm. I learned at that age, people, you don't need a microphone. You don't need a podcast. You don't need a stage. You don't need to be the biggest leader in the corporate office or the teacher. You just need to be somebody that's willing to help somebody. Mm-hmm. Be kind.
That's it.
Remember a name. Smile. Give them something.
It doesn't cost anything to be kind.
It does not, man. And yet we forget that because so many times people say, well, I don't know what to do. Isn't that something?
There's a pretty good default, right?
Yeah. Well, I don't know what to do. Figure it out, man. Go shake his hand. Yeah. Ask where he's from. And if
when in doubt, help somebody.
It goes back to what you said, and I love that. When in doubt, just help somebody. And sometimes it's just a conversation. Sometimes it's just a simple conversation. And we know what conversations lead to. They lead to opportunities, right? But sometimes people, they just need a friend.
That's it.
Somebody to talk to. And my dad left with us. He loaded us up in a car, and we got a job in Huntington, Utah. And when we were living in Huntington, Utah, we got government assistance. We lived in a broken down apartment building, and my dad got a job with a man. And during that time, there was a guy, we're in Utah, so there's missionaries, right? Mm-hmm. He came to our door with these two people in white, and he knocked on the door, and he saw our hair was a mess. We were washing our clothes in the bathtub, which you don't do that, during that time. We have
right.
It's not normal. And he noticed we couldn't read, we couldn't write, and at this time he's a police officer and his wife is a teacher. And studies show if you can't read by the third grade, you're in a higher bracket to struggling throughout life, right? Mental health, addiction, you're headed down that direction. You're at a higher level. And this man, when he saw us washing our clothes in the bathtub, a couple of days later, he came back with a brand new washer and dryer.
Wow.
Yeah. And he said, why don't you bring your children over to my home? My wife's a teacher. She could teach them how to read and how to write. So I remember every day going to this lady's house, and she would teach me how to write my name, and I would write my name all over everything.
Yeah.
One day I'm going to be famous, I told her. And, obviously she didn't get too mad at me for writing my name all over everything. She kind of let me express my way and express myself. But during Christmas time, these people made sure we had what we needed. Those black garbage bags full of toys and clothes, they made sure that we had that.
I love that.
Yeah, me too, man, because I was one of those kids that got that through other people's kindness. So if there's anybody that was a part of that, thank you. I'm one of the kids that your service made me smile on those holidays. My dad got in the car with all of us. I believe we were, because I remember we got pulled over on Carbon Avenue. We were going back to the homeless shelter to eat or get food or something. And he started using substances. And he started punching the windows of the car, screaming, there are devils inside of our vehicle. And you can imagine my brothers and I were in the back seat of the cop car, and we're screaming, we're crying. The man of the house, our hero, is possessed. Man, he had to have been possessed. And he was punching the windows until they broke, man. You know how hard you have to punch? And red and blue lights soon began to chase our vehicle. At this time, I'm like 6, my other brother's 7, my other brother's 8. You're at the age of, you remember.
Yeah.
But you're at the age of, you don't know, right? You don't know what to expect. Where's my mom? Where's my dad?
Yeah, ton of fear.
And I remember those red and blue lights chasing our car. And after some time, they got my dad to pull over, and they grabbed him, and they were putting him in the cop car. I remember my brothers jumping out of the car. At this time, man, we've seen a lot of cops. We've seen our parents get taken away, and we're in a place we don't even recognize. Mm-hmm. No mom, no family. We don't know anything. And I remember jumping out of the car, running over to the cop, and I kicked him. And I said, I know karate.
Try to be the hero again.
Exactly. Obviously, I didn't know very much karate.
No.
And I tell that story with a smile on my face because I giggle at the heart that I had to try to help.
Sure.
Right? Even at a young age. And the cop gently put my dad in the cop car. He did. He was very kind and very nice. And he loaded us up in the patrol car, and And he put his mirror on us, and we had tears in our eyes, and he told us, "You're going to be okay." You know, and I love police, man. I love police. One day I might be a cop, right? I'm a speaker and all that, but I still tell people I love it. I love what they do. Is there evil in every place? Yes, there is. In every place there is. But no matter in what schools, government, police, here, on the airs, right? There's good and there's bad. So I'm just reminding people that you need to be the good, right? Yeah. And the reason why I speak so high on the police is because they run towards chaos, right? And even if we don't agree with them at all times, they're willing, if we call them, they're willing to show up.
Oh, they have a shit job, right?
I mean, you know, they do, man. They really do. And they have to put up with people that don't appreciate them, right? And, you know, if I put that banana upside down, it's going to offend somebody. I don't know who, but I bet somebody on social media is going to get offended.
Yep.
Right? And then, you know, that could cause chaos. Sad that that's the world that we live in, right? I can post a video on social media and all of a sudden people are attacking me when I speak about being kind. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? But the police officer, he said, "You're going to be okay," but he lied. At that time, I didn't know, but now, you know, I could just see him put his mirror back up, and I could just remember his face. He just knew, like, you kids are going to be ripped apart. Your dad's going to jail for a long time. Like, he could have turned around and said, "You guys are screwed.
Yeah.
You guys are going to be in foster care homes and homeless shelters, and you're going to be taken away to DCFS, and you will probably never see each other again."
Yeah.
You know, I have children. You know, most adults have children. And could you imagine that? Like telling other kids, like, "Hey, you'll be all right." But he did the best he could. He dropped us off at a home, and then the foster care system started. My brother started, you know, one brother got sent away, and, you know, then another cop came to pick us up. And this is where the story my adoption story just changes for the second heroes I've ever met. I remember when the police officer was coming back up the gravel driveway. My brothers and I had been in foster care for some time, and he knocked on the door. And at this time, I had so much anxiety because I knew I was going to have to leave my last brother that was with me. And I remember the cop knocking on the door and me just crying. And as soon as the lady opened up the door, I could see right past the cop, and in the back of the cop car was this little boy trying to get out. It was my brother. So I didn't even care what the cop said. I ran all the way to the cop car. My brother and I opened it up, and we hugged each other.
Nice.
Because we were reunited. Isn't that just such a wonderful story, man? Yeah. I can't wait to get to heaven and just replay that. But the police officer said, "There's a family that wants to take you in." And they took us to McDonald's, man. And we loaded back in the cop car, and then we started to drive in a direction that we all recognized. And it was the police officer and the teacher that taught us how to read and how to write.
Wow.
Adopted me and all of my brothers. And then 2 years later, my little brother, he was with my mom, and just terrible things were happening to him. And, you know, my mom was bouncing all over, and I love my mom, so I'm not putting any bad words towards her. I loved her, but she needed help. That's why I try so hard at what I can do, because there's hundreds of moms and dads that write me, and I try to give them the best advice. And I remember one day we went to Colorado to see her, and my little brother grabbed his backpack and put it inside of the car. And we said, "What are you doing?" He's like, "I'm going to live with you." My mom was going back to jail, and when she got out of jail, my parents were supposed to give her son back, my brother. But she never got on her feet, so that family adopted my whole family.
That's amazing. You all got to stay together.
We all got to stay together, and that's,
out of all, I mean, listen, it's horrible circumstances, right? Yeah. But like a silver lining.
Oh, what a beauty! You know what? It is a beautiful story. We went through things that I am so glad I went through, because it gives me an opportunity to help people go through what they're trying to grow through.
Exactly. Life experience, right?
Life experience is the best experience. You know, I thought if I have the psychology degree, man, I'm going to know it all. And you want to know what? My experience trumps all of that, I think.
All of it.
Yep. And, you know, sadly, my mom took her life. She was never able to get back up on her feet. And, you know what? It sucks. Going through life, not knowing what it would be like to have a mom. You see, I was adopted, and I am so grateful for that family that adopted me. But if we're talking psychology here, let's talk about, you know, biological, right? Chemically. right? They're not my family.
Mm-hmm.
Now, yes, we could speak on Ohana, right? You create your family, and they are my family. I carry their last name. But what I'm saying is I didn't get what other people get, and it really kind of makes me mad.
Yeah.
So parents, if you're out there struggling, man, with choices and addictions, man, it's not just you, my friends. It's your children, and they need you. I speak to high schools and middle schools all over the country. I've been in 32 states, and it's mind-blowing how many children come up to me and say, my parents are struggling. Look, I get it. Like, I struggled too, but you are strong. You are loved. There are resources out there. You have two amazing people right here. You could contact them. They will find you. There is services all over in your towns, in your cities, in your states. People are just afraid to act because they are scared of being judged. I know that for a fact because I was there. So reach out to people because you don't always have the answers, but you will have the experience and the answers to help people. But you got to help yourself.
You got to help yourself first.
Yeah.
That's the hardest thing, right? Asking for help.
Yeah, it really is, man, because we feel like cowards.
It's that whole, being, opening up yourself to judgment. And the funniest thing is the more I do it, the more I realize that most people can say, oh, I know exactly how you feel, right? So it's like, it's not just you. It's not just me. It's not just anybody for that matter that are struggling. I mean, life isn't the easiest thing in the entire world, but but we're also lucky in the sense that we get to draw breath every day, right? Every day's a blessing. And so to hyper focus on that negative stuff is just pointless because at the end of the day, none of it matters really, right? Yeah. I mean, all we have is, family or Ohana, whatever you want to call it, like the people that care for you, love you, and all that other stuff. And then there are luckily people that you can call your family that are there to help you out when things get tough.
Yeah. And I love that. Not just addicts struggle. This suit right here was given to me. This is a Dylan Blake suit. And I love this suit because there was a guy named Fabrizio. And
great name.
Yeah. He was in Rome and he lost everything. And he was homeless on the street. And he walked by a sewing parlor and saw suits, and he just walked in and said, hey, could you teach me how to sew? And now Dylan Blake and him, right, they do suits. And it has a gold button on it that represents like the stories we all have, right? A golden moment, I guess you can say.
How cool is that?
Yeah, isn't that wonderful?
Yeah, and I'd never heard of them. That's amazing. I can't wait to look them up when we're done.
Yeah, and with that being said, is if you look around, everything that's ever been built, drawn, designed, it came from somebody struggling. And I learned that because emotions, everybody feels those. Nobody's exempt from feeling sad, mad, anger, triumphant, happy. We're all meant to feel those things. So when you're feeling that way, just say, hey, Jack, when you were feeling sad, man, when you were coming out of your recovery, what exact steps? Like, what was your first step that you took to get out of it? And that's where your knowledge, my knowledge, and every person that has struggled with something had learned and now able to teach.
Sure.
Being the proof. Right?
Yeah. Well, mine, I believe, was a moment of grace, personally. I mean, that's not everybody. Sometimes it's losing a kid, or sometimes it's near-death experience, OD, whatever it is. Like, that can be usually the person's turning point. For me, I was given a moment of grace where I just couldn't continue doing what I was doing. Yeah. And I guess an unexpected inner resource came through. I had a little bit of willingness to do something for myself for once in my life. You know what I mean? Like, I was a perpetual corner cutter, right? I always, I don't want to do the hard work. I want you to tell me, I want the Cliff Notes version of your book, bro.
Amen. Dude,
can you just tell me the 5 C's
and give me the C's.
Give me the 5 C's and I'm pretty sure I got this.
Yep.
You know what?
And there's nothing wrong with that, because you want to know what? We are all so busy in our own lives that it's okay to just ask what the 5 C's are. You know what I mean? Like, that's why I love listening to podcasts, right? We don't have to listen word to word like a person's book. It's like, hey man, we got you for X amount of hours. Give us the information. That's why I think podcasts are just amazing. And I've learned to do that with music, because I didn't like listening to anything when I was little besides music. I hated reading. Yep. I didn't read at all. ADHD, ADD, you name it, I had it. But now it's a superpower. But I had those things, and then I realized, oh my gosh, I love music. So let me read these books, listen to these podcasts, and then put it into music.
In the quiet hills of Marin County, there's a place where healing begins, a place where alcohol or drugs no longer control your life. At Live Oaks Wellness, we offer compassionate, client-centered care for those struggling with addiction. Our licensed drug and alcohol detox and residential programs are designed to help you take the first step toward recovery with a team that truly understands the journey. You don't have to walk this path alone. At Live Oaks, we're here to help you rebuild, restore, and reclaim your life. Take the first step today. Live Oaks Wellness. Healing starts here.
So you're with your new family and everything starts going a little bit smoother?
Yeah, everything gets going smoother, but change is hard.
Of course.
Right? Obviously, just having to call them mom and dad now was very confusing. And they were a very religious family. They raised us to be righteous. But I remember in the second grade, I was in the bathtub and I was crying, right? I missed my mom and I missed my dad at this time. And I remember being adopted by this white family, and I just felt like I just was out of place.
Mm-hmm.
So in the bathtub, I remember grabbing the soap and putting it on my skin, and then I grabbed the washcloth and I just started to scrub, hoping I was white under my brown skin.
Fascinating.
Yeah, obviously I wasn't, and blood started to, and it hurt, and so I started to cry. And at this point, man, I was just lost. But just like in my new children's book, I drew me in the future on a page. There was a guy in the second grade that came to my school, and I remember he got on the stage and he said what I told you earlier. Whatever you speak about, whatever you think about, you will become. You could be a hero. He had my attention.
Sure.
I was in the auditorium and I didn't care that other kids were talking. I was listening.
Yeah, you were honed in.
Engaged. And he sat down and he started playing the piano, and everybody loved him. I saw hero.
Mm-hmm.
So I went home. The people that adopted me had a piano. I started playing underneath the piano like this. I started playing like this. And then later I learned to play blindfolded because I wanted to make other people feel the way he felt. So, like most kids, I was an athlete. I was fast. I broke track records. I was almost killed in the 9th grade, 2 blood clots in my legs after getting hit in football.
Holy mackerel.
Yeah, and so they were going to cut my leg off.
You truly are on your 8th life.
It's serious, man. Yes. Yeah. I mean, when I said that, I'm dead serious.
Yeah.
And they were afraid to put me on the helicopter because they were afraid that it would, whatever, it would kill me. So, dude, they just started doing surgery right there, and it was very painful. But I came back from it, and I wanted to be in the NBA. I'm 5'3.5" without my shoes on.
Muggsy Bogues.
Muggsy Bogues, buddy. And my parents knew. Let's talk about that because I want people to know. If, like Jim Rohn says, if you want to be a bread maker, who do you ask? The person making the bread.
Yeah.
If I want to do a podcast, I'm coming to you. You know what I mean? And so we had no NBA players in our county besides Sean Bradley.
Nice.
Remember that name?
Yes,
yep,
7'8".
Utah. Yeah.
7'8".
Yep. And obviously, I'm nowhere near his height. And, he's out playing for the 76ers or whoever, but my mom taught him in preschool. But anyways, that was just a cool hype story.
Super cool.
But I didn't have anybody to ask, so my parents would make me. It was a chore teaching me consistency. I had to go outside and shoot 200 shots every day. On Saturday, I would ride my bike to the library, and I would check out books on NBA players. Yep, I read about Muggsy Bogues, all these people, Michael Jordan, and all these amazing people, and I was able to play in 1996 and 1997 for the Utah Jazz, bro.
No way.
Yep. But it was the junior Jazz. It was you sign up, you play, bro.
I'm thinking to myself, like, wait, this story's got to have more to it.
Oh, yeah. Nope, I played for the junior Jazz, and that's about the farthest I made it. Proving that sometimes your goals and your dreams, they're not going to go the way you plan.
I thought I was going to be in finance the rest of my life personally. And then I blew it up with my alcoholism only to find out that like I wasn't actually really happy. I kind of just enjoyed some of the things that came along with it, but at the end of the day, it wasn't fulfilling. Right. And it was soul sucking. And so, getting to work in recovery now and try to do this stuff, are you kidding me? Like pinch me. Like my life is amazing today.
When somebody finds their purpose, that's in sense your direction, right? Your purpose equals your direction.
I agree 1,000%.
And if you know what direction you're going, you're going to be okay, even though sometimes you're going to get lost. But as long as you're going in the right direction, you're always going to be okay because you're going to get lost. So I didn't make the thank you, brother. I didn't make the NBA. So I decided I want to be in the special forces, right? I wanted to start going to the military, and I broke 5:17 at 12 years old is what I ran a mile.
Wow.
And I just got faster. And then I had leg surgery, and then I broke the next record. And 17 years old, I joined the military, and I this time I was the homecoming king, which is a big thing. Lord Farquaad did it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Size don't mean nothing. And yep, amen. And so I graduated as one of the honors, right? I was the fastest kid in my battalion. They were giving me the slot to go to airborne school and do all this cool stuff, right? And my platoon sergeant was like, hey, we're going to send you to Ranger school. Like, you got this, And I came home and got addicted to drugs. Yeah.
When you say came home,
I came home. Yep. So at the time I was in the National Guard. So I finished my basic training, my AIT. Instead of going back out and trying to do active duty and going to airborne school, air assault school and doing all those schools, which I wanted to, I had a girlfriend back home.
Oh, yeah.
And so I came back home. I got a job in the coal mine in 2008, making $25 an hour, which is equivalent to probably $35 an hour now. And so I was making a lot of money as an 18-year-old, right? I had a Camaro. I had... just to put it in context, body kits and TVs. Before that stuff, now everything has a TV in it, but lights underneath. It looked like the Fast and the Furious car.
Sure.
Right? And man, I had money.
Yeah.
$20,000 sign-on bonus from the military, $1,800 every 2-week paychecks back then. And I just started partying, and I started, honestly, I started smoking cigarettes, and I didn't even like them, but I just smoke them just to chat with people.
Sure.
And then I started drinking, and then we started a little smoking weed, and keep in mind, I'm in the military. And then we went to a rave, and I started doing ecstasy, and ecstasy's laced with different things. And next thing you know it, man, I was almost kicked out of the military. I failed out of college a total of 4 times before getting my degree. I was homeless, sleeping in my car again. I was breaking into apartments to sleep at night. One time, at this time, people in the National Guard, they didn't know, but they knew I was up to something because I was going to jail. I went to jail 8 times. I was sued twice, and the military knows. And then I started getting pulled over with drugs in my car. And I remember I had to take a pee test, and I was dirty. And I remember them giving me the bottle and saying, hey, go pee. And I was just like, God, please. Like, I'll change my life right here, right? As addicts, we have
prayer.
those. Yeah. Like, please, please. And I looked on, and I'm just going to give you random numbers here so I don't give my social security, but I looked on the bottle and it said 661, and it was supposed to say 77, 616. There was one number that was mixed up. So they said, okay, you don't have to take the test. And a moment of pure blessing. And that was the time where I'm like, okay, God, I got to change. But as most addicts do, what usually happens, you might be good for a couple weeks and then you slip up again.
Yep.
So I was doing that, and I was at a party. I was underage drinking, and I got caught by the cops. The cops said I punched him, and I got put into jail.
Well, that's going to show up.
Yeah, yep, and it did. Yep, I was in Sandy, Utah. I was in front of the court, but during the time, I would go a couple months without doing anything and a couple weeks without doing anything, and I was really trying to change. It's the truth. I really was, and I was going to my court appointments, and there was a unit going to Afghanistan. At this time, I was 20 years old, and almost 21, and I said, could I go with you? I switched units. I'm trying to change my life. I'm doing good. I truly am doing good. And they said no. And I said, well, I'm ready. And I just kept trying, kept asking. Finally, they said, okay, if you get everything taken care of with the courts, we'll let you go. Because even though they knew, I don't think they knew, if that makes sense. They might have a hunch because we had MySpace back then, and I would post me at parties like an idiot.
Yeah.
And anyways, I got picked up again, dude. And I was in the orange jumpsuit with chains on my legs and my hands. And I went to a court appointment, and I was just praying again, God, I've gone a couple weeks. I've gone a couple months. I am showing you progress. And I went in front of the judge, and I met my third hero that day. And, I started tearing up, and I'm like, Judge, there's a unit going to Afghanistan. I'm a fool. You're right. I am a fool. I don't deserve this. But I'm willing to go to a war zone and fight for my country. And I said, I'm hanging out with the wrong people. I don't have any, this is all I have. And the judge walked off the stage, walked right in front of me and hugged me and said, okay, you can go.
Wow.
You will learn more in Afghanistan than you will learn if I put you in jail here.
It's not wrong.
And so they let me go that day. That day, dude. And, within 5 months, I was training to go to war. Just had my 21st birthday when I was on a Chinook flying over the Afghanistan mountains. And, 23 of the 32 I was with was blown up. One was killed in my unit, and many others in my unit were blown up. It was just chaos. The first day getting there, dude, we were ambushed. We had no ammo yet, getting ready to fight with knives. So when I tell people like, well, what was your treatment like? It was a war zone, and that's when I discovered like, okay, yeah, it kept me from this, but man, it led on a whole bunch of, I didn't know what PTSD was. I didn't know what that stuff was.
Sure.
And yeah, so then there I am, man, just at war. So
we had a guest on last week who was talking about childhood PTSD. Obviously, there's different types, right? But hers was complex due to a rape as well. And she was talking about how drugs and alcohol might have been the reason why she didn't kill herself. And I thought that was a fascinating take on it, which was like it kept her numb enough, which kept her alive long enough for her to want to do something about it. And I've also had experiences where like, I've met some veterans. My dad was in the military as well. And he was, he said to me a couple of times where it's like, if it weren't for the alcohol over there numbing some of those feelings because of what he's seeing, you may not make it back. And it's like, I don't know how other people process things, right? We're all different in a lot of ways. And some people can't, and they end up on the street there and there's no resources. And that's really, really sad. But somehow you've been able to come back. So your addiction didn't resurface when you came back from war?
Man, when I came back, I just dove right back into, at this time I was like, no drugs. I just went a year, but I slipped up and I started, smoking weed and taking prescription drugs. But when I got back, I was home for 11 months and I got back into school and I put in for a job. They hired me, then they let me go because of my criminal record. And I'm like, dude, I just went to war.
Yeah.
And you're not going to, because what happened before war. And so I always tried to be good. I met my wife at the state wrestles in Utah. She's a small town girl. I'm a small town kid. So kind of the small towns go to the, the wrestling.
Sure.
And I met her there and I wasn't drinking, man. I wasn't doing anything, smoking, nothing. Like I truly wanted to better myself. And, this was before I left my first time. And I told her, I'm going to take you out on a date. So when I got back, I hit her up and was, hey, let's go on a date. And,
you made right on your promise.
Oh man. Before war, I was a nobody and I knew it and it hurt me. It was like, she was beautiful. And I said, I'm going to take you out to a jazz game. And then here I am sleeping on my friend's couch, trying to not do drugs. Man, I would dress up, and it's disappointing to say this because I have two girls. One's almost a teen now. I would dress up like I had a white smile. I had a personality, right? I would dress up like I had life figured out, and I would persuade and almost caress girls into thinking like, ooh, man, this guy can take care of me. And I couldn't. Yeah. I was a piece of crap.
Well, it's that facade, right?
Man.
I mean, it's what we believe the world wants from us, right? I believe that for the whole facade aspect of it, or at least what I was going through, I'll speak for myself, which is that like I wanted to present something because I was so ashamed of who I was, truly on the inside. You always want to show people what you think they want to see.
Yeah.
And it was that longing for belonging.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, longing for belonging, I just wanted to be a part of, and for whatever reason, I didn't think what I was equipped with or came with was sufficient enough to be part of that.
I like how you said that because, I had the personality. Yeah, I did have the white, but I know that I wasn't living up to the expectation that I was taught or I could.
Yeah.
And so anyways, we went out on a date, man. We were friends. I didn't even kiss her for like 4 months, and we really started to like each other, and it got to the point where I was like going back to war, and I was like, I don't know what to do. Like, I need to marry this girl or let her go. And so I was having a conversation with my friend. My friend's like, dump her, because we're young and, just,
Sure.
Go back to war and come back and party, and she ended up being pregnant. And, so we had an unplanned pregnancy, but dude, deep down, I honestly was like, thank you, God. Like, I love her. Like, I want her. And now she's mine because I'm going to take care of her. And I remember when she told me, she had tears in her eyes, like, we're young, man. We made a mistake. Not that we made a mistake for loving each other, but it was not in the traditional ways that we had planned.
Sure.
Is a safe way to put it.
I'm following.
And I went to her dad's house, and keep in mind, he met me one time before. I had bullet bikes, earrings. Like, I'd pull up. He's thinking, like, who the heck is this?
Yikes.
Second time I met him, I just walked right in, knocked on the door, and he came to the door, and I said, your daughter's pregnant. I said, and I'm going back to war in about 3 months, but I want to marry her before I leave. And he's just like, what the, like any dad,
Sure.
whether he liked me or not. I was polite. I was outgoing. They're Hispanic, so that was not their culture either. And I just said, I'll take care of her. Like, I will. And, I get back in my car. I'm thinking, oh, crap. Okay, big pants on. So I went back to war again. And then I came home with an 8th-month baby girl that my wife gave birth to while I was away. And man, when I got back, dude, it was, man, this is the part I hate talking about because it was a learning process. Man, we fought. I wasn't the man I promised her I would be. I would lie. I would go to the bars without her knowing. I would go places that she had no idea. I ended up getting fired from my job. Within 5 years, you could say I got fired from my job. It was a chemical plant job. Mm-hmm. So I got back, moved here and there, but during this whole time, I was just a piece of crap. I would wake up in the middle of the night and I would search for my weapon. And I would search for the enemy. And my wife would be crying, saying, Ryan, there is nobody here. And she would be on the edge of the bed and she would just be in tears, like, you need help. And then I would punch holes in the walls. I'd just drink. And I would lie to her. And, she had every right to leave me, man. Mm-hmm. And she called her mom to come and get her.
So that's what happened.
Yeah. And I said, no, we'll be okay. Like, I'm good. And I just remember her coming in.
It's okay.
I remember her just coming in the room, dude, just so disappointed at my choices.
Sure.
She's like, why are you doing this to me? And at the same time, I'm just like, God, kill me now. Like, take me away. And so we worked through that part. We sold our house, moved into a duplex, and this was the time I lost my job. And I remember being in the car, getting sent home a second time, and I had a plan to kill myself. And I had a plan, right? I don't speak about that lightly. Most people that say they're going to take their lives, they don't have a plan. They're not there.
Sure.
And when they are in that mindset, psychology tells us you have 10 to 20 minutes to get out of that mindset, or else you will do it. And I remember being in the car and I'm just like, I'm done, right? I already had a plan. I'm going to run my car into a cement barrier 4.5 miles outside of town. And I remember just grabbing the steering wheel and punching it and punching the windows and screaming, why me? I did make stupid choices, but I was a good person. I was just doing two lives that wasn't good. Mm-hmm. I'm kind. I'm always nice. I'm always respectful. Would always look after the underdog because I felt like I was the underdog, honestly. Sure. But I was making choices that weren't right. So, there's that double-edged sword. You're good or you're not. You can't be on the fence. You got to fix yourself. And I remember I was almost ready to hit it, dude. And in the book you'll read, them scenes from the cartoons where there's an angel and a spirit, dude, that somebody must have felt that before the cartoons came out, because I remember the dark side saying, you're still in the military and you have life insurance from your work. Your family will be okay. Mm-hmm. And then the other side was just like, why would you leave your children the same way your mom left you? Because, that's always been a pretty, tough spot that I had to work through and still gets me,
Yep.
And So I remember just, and then going right towards that, probably over 100, man, in a little Mazda Protege. And then at the last second, I just swerved. I was listening to country music on the radio station.
Do you remember the song?
No, I don't, man. It could have been commercials. That was kind of the radio station, but
Gotcha.
I remember just turning it on and it was country music. I was 4.5 miles away from home. I was just freaking out. I got to go tell my wife I got fired from my job. I moved her into a duplex wanting to build a real estate empire and all this stuff. And I remember just turning on the music and then trying to just decompress.
Yeah, breathe.
Before I got home. And I remember sitting outside of the house just thinking, I'm effed. Like, I have a new baby girl that was just born. I have 2 kids and my wife. You're never gone, my friends. You're never too far gone. You're learning. And sometimes we have to learn ways we don't want to learn, right? Sometimes we choose to learn that way, even though we don't realize we chose to go that direction, right? I put myself in that situation. Life's all about choices and consequences of your choices. Yes, some things does happen to us, but a lot of times we do it to ourselves. And that's step 1 in my book. It's a self-evaluation, right? We'll get to that. But I sat out in the car and then I walked up the piece of crap, cracked driveway, and I walked in and I put my back against the wall and I let my wife know everything. Everything.
And at that point, everything included the drinking?
She knew at this time, but just the, hey, at work.
Is that why you got fired?
Let go. So I got filed because I was a safety, I wasn't remembering things. I was a safety hazard. I was a dumbass, right? Why would people would say, why did they trust you with a weapon in Afghanistan? I was just going through a ton. And the excuse was I chose to not get help. And I was a safety liability. And there was one part at work where you had to monitor something and it took an hour to monitor. And it was a chemical plant. So then I would walk and go do something else. And oh shit, I would walk back to it and it would be over flooded, which would ruin the whole product. So I would do things like that. Or, I got in a car wreck with a company vehicle earlier, like just, man, you name it. I just
not paying attention.
You want to know what, bro? I had to take accountability. That's step number 2, just not paying attention. You're just not paying attention. And when you don't pay attention, you don't get to pick the outcome, bud. So I was at home and I told my wife, okay, like, I'm done. And she put her hand on my shoulder and she said, Ryan, you're a soldier. You've been through so much. And she gave me a speech, which was the best motivational speech ever, but it ended with, I believe in you.
Nice.
And I remember them going to bed and, man, right away, I just started looking for jobs. And I put everything on paper, man. I'm a dumbass. I am struggling. I am a safety. Like, I had to get it out. Not knowing I was learning accountability until I wrote the book. But, dude, I went to the workforce service place. Now, this time I wasn't drinking. I'm like, I've lost it all. And my wife almost just left me. She forgave me, and then I just lost my job. And my wife is still right there, dude, just chugging along. And anyways, I go to workforce services, right? I called the plant. They sent me home. I knew they were going to fire me. So they didn't fire me right away, but they sent me home a second time, which I was fired. So to save face, I called them and said, hey, I quit. Just because it gave me the one up.
I've done that.
And yeah, it gives you power, right?
Yeah, it's on my terms at that point.
Yeah, there you go. It saves face, I guess.
I could literally say I wasn't fired.
Yeah, but you're fired.
I abandoned my job, but I wasn't fired.
Yeah, exactly. And I remember going to workforce service, dude, and I stayed there. I would be there until it opened up, and I would leave at lunchtime, and I would come back until it closed. And I was there for weeks, dude. 2-3 weeks. And I put in for every job. The ladies at the place started bringing me cookies, and you could tell, like, they could tell, hey, how many jobs did you put in for today, Ryan? Like, dude, I wanted it. And the only job I can get was in the coal mine. Now, if people don't know what the coal mine is, like during the war, the slaves would go work in the coal mines, right? In the hills and in the tunnels. And I had worked in the coal mines out of high school. I'm from a coal mining town, so it's kind of just what you did, power plants and coal mining. But I did not want to go back. And that was the only job I could get. And I remember just being upset with God, like, this is it? Are you kidding me? I'm a 2-time warp, and it's like, and so I got there, I got interviewed. When I went in and I, saw some of my old friends, but I noticed that they were coming up back to the surface, dude, and they were sweaty and all black from the coal. You could have a white guy and he would be completely black, and they were working 13.5-hour shifts, and they just looked like miserable. Yeah. And they said, hey, we'll offer you the job. And I remember going out to my car and I just was like, I cried, dude. And at this point in my life, I didn't know what else to do. So I cried, dude, because punching holes in the wall, all that anger didn't work.
No, you almost lost your wife over it.
So now I just would cry like a little grown up sissy, I thought, but I'm like, are you kidding me, God? Like, you put me back here. Like, why would you do this to me? Like, I'm a good man. I just made stupid choices. But so my family was still in Delta, so I lived in my car on the mountain, or I slept at work, or I would sleep at my parents', or I would drive and sleep at my brother's apartment. And, my family moved up, and to make the story short, I got on a weekend shift. During the weekend, I started buying real estate, working all the overtime possible. I bought and flipped 2 houses with my wife. We bought an ice cream franchise. I got back into school during the week, and I got my psychology degree. I started building a speaking business. I worked every single day. And before that, I was working at a youth home in between my days off. Nice. Like, I grinded and I grinded and I grinded. And then I crushed my hand in the coal mine and had 3 surgeries and no longer worked there. So then we started a trucking company. And, well, to make the story short, I was crushed. Should have been paying better attention. That's really what it was. When you're following too close, it doesn't matter if there's a wreck ahead of you. It just doesn't matter. I should have been following too close. And we just barely put about $50,000 into that truck. $50,000, right?
It's a lot of money.
And the insurance didn't cover the engine. So I just had to eat $50,000 worth of debt, right? And we sold our houses and we bought an ice cream franchise that doesn't even pay us. Pays us very little. It was kind of we'll keep it at that partnership that we'll leave it at that. And then I'm just speaking. But as I'm recovering, I'm still going to school. I'm still writing the books. So life hits. One of my favorite sayings is everybody's got a plan until you get punched in the face by Mike Tyson.
Yep.
And that's what's so wonderful about consistency. That's step 3 in my new book, Lead Like a Legend. It's, if you don't know what to do, get up and just work out, go on a walk, listen to motivational stuff, and then work on something that's going to benefit you in the future.
Yeah.
If you need a job, put in for a job. That's what you need to do. Right?
I absolutely love that, because for somebody like me, and maybe I can speak on behalf of addicts and alcoholics here, but I needed something simple, right? And it could just, I call it the next right thing, right? The next right thing might be as soon as as soon as my eyes wake up, it's pray and meditate or do something along those lines, read a piece of motivational literature. And then it's like jump in the shower. But then from there, it's like, okay, now you got to check your emails and then you got to do this and then you got to do that. If you can focus, and sometimes you have to keep it so small that, listen, if somebody's brand new and getting sober, don't try to say, I need to go get a job. Say, I need to take a shower, something that you can accomplish, because it creates a habit. I remember talking to some guy on the phone and he had just had a relapse and we were chatting and he was like, bro, I got to get a job. I got to do this. I got to do that. And I said, no, you're not presentable. You're not employable right now. Please don't focus on that. First thing you need to do is take a shower and clean your apartment, right? Like clean, whatever it is, like clean everything and then call me later. And then he would do that. And then I'd give him another task or, call him, do another task, something small, things that you can actually accomplish in the moment. Because if you set your goals too high early on, not to say that you shouldn't have those goals, but it can become overwhelming to the point where it's self-defeating and then you don't accomplish anything.
Yeah. If you jump to the top of the staircase, that's going to be difficult. But if you do the small steps, right? It's like, when people say,
it's a good analogy.
It's
a good analogy.
Let's look at something simple. You got fruit in front of us, okay? How does fruit grow? It's the nutrients that it's in, what it's being planted in. So as long as somebody is around the right and in the right nutrients over time, They're going to grow with work, right? The work of nurturing, right? Taking a shower, making your bed, putting in for jobs, going to the gym. Those are just small. The watering, the food, while you're in the right nutrition. We were talking at step 1 in my book, Conquering Your Colosseum. What you were just saying in different words is called a self-evaluation. So when people ask me, what's the first step of changing your life? It's you have to have a self-evaluation, what says, okay, self, before you could take the shower, before you could, you need to say, okay, what can I do? And your self-evaluation is the moment of honesty, right? Before I build a home, it's the foundation. And, some people, like you said, they want to put up, they want to go get a job, which is you're putting up the walls before you dig out the foundation.
Yeah, you have zero foundation.
Foundation. So your walls aren't even going to stand.
Yeah.
So your self-evaluation is, okay, what can I do right now? One of the best analogies is go in the mirror and get naked and look at yourself. Are you proud of yourself? Spiritually, mentally, physically, emotionally, and financially? The answer is no. Right? And it should be no at all time, because if we're working on our self-development, we're working towards what you said, those small goals, right? And that's what we constantly need, because we are spiritual people and we need to
have something to strive for.
Yep. Constantly be productive. So your self-evaluation, this is where you're honest, right? Years ago when I was looking for that job and I was sitting up at the table, I didn't even realize I was doing a self-evaluation. The moments where I said I'm dumb, right? I am an idiot. Like, okay, I can't do this and that. Like, I literally was doing a self-evaluation, and it was the truth. Step 2 is taking accountability. So while I was saying those things, I was also taking accountability of, man, I hated people calling me dumb or a drug addict or an alcoholic or a bad father for some people or a bad mother. Like, nobody likes to hear that. But why are they saying it? It's not right that people say those things to us. That's called bullying, and it's being rude. But sometimes people need to say things we need to hear.
Yeah.
And those people were saying those rude things to me, and I would get defensive. But as soon as I learned how to take accountability, I realized, okay, Ryan, are they right? Okay, yeah, they are right. So now I was honest with myself. I haven't been a good dad. I've been using behind my wife's back. I've been lying to my wife. I haven't been living up to my standards of what God would be acceptable. I haven't been just all around living the way I should.
Sure.
And then so the next step, like I said, is accountability. So now that I took accountability and said, okay, I've been dumb, I've been this, I've been that, that's the truth. What's the next step? Well, before you could do anything after taking accountabilities, you have to believe that it's possible, right? Because without belief, if you tell me you're going to do something but you don't believe in you, I'm not going to believe in you. And nobody cares. Unless you are in the field of helping other people, nobody cares. I learned that when I was in jail. I watched everybody else drive by. Everybody drive by, and I realized nobody cares that Ryan Stream's in jail. Jesse and Jack, you help people all day long. That's your life mission. But when you clock out of here, you're in the job or in the service industry that serves people constantly. But when you're away at your family's house, you will destroy your family if you're constantly thinking of this. So you gotta. There's the fine line right there.
I can't say I haven't experienced a little bit of that.
Yeah, exactly. That's why a lot of people high up in the corporations, a lot of them get divorced, right? Because they haven't. It's
the work-life balance.
Yep, work-life balance, and we call them A-type personalities, right? The go-getters, the let's get her done, let's save the world all at the same time. You can't do that. That's why balance is so important. So the point I was trying to make is when you're with your family, you got to shut this off. You can't care about what's going on right here, or it's going to negatively affect your family. So the point I'm trying to make is, my friends, you got to figure it out. People could hold your hand. People could give you the fishing pole and show you the fish and give you the bait. But there comes a time where you got to do that self-evaluation, take accountability, grab that fishing pole, and believe that you can cast out with the right bait and actually catch something.
Sure.
Right? So you could teach that. I could teach that. But they have to have self-belief. How do you believe in yourself? The best way is just what you said. Okay, man, maybe I can't believe that I can go get $100,000 job right now, but what can I do?
Yeah.
It's the small wins, man.
Small wins all day.
I knew, okay, I needed a job. Okay, I I don't really believe that I can get a job, but I have the house, I have bills coming up, I have a family to watch my daughter. Okay, what's my next step? I need a job. Okay, if I don't believe in myself, I'm going to go to the place where people get paid to help me find a job. And then I'm going to put everything down on paper, and then I'm going to believe that I can go to this interview and get a job.
That's sort of manifestation we were talking about, right?
Amen. Thoughts become actions, right?
They do.
We are in the midst of the worst drug crisis in U.S. history.
The CDC has named fentanyl deadliest drug in the United States.
The drug is fentanyl.
My name is Jeremy, and I'm a recovering fentanyl addict. I've overdosed more times than I can count. I believe I was revived so I could carry the message to the addict that still suffers. Silence makes you complicit. You either recover loudly or you die quietly. I'm not here to scare you. I'm here to help you save your own life.
Learn more at recoverordie.org.
I wanted to circle back on that because you kept talking about how you were a dumbass, or you kept saying I'm a dumbass. And it's like, I don't agree with that personally, right? You know, I don't necessarily see any dumbass in front of me. However, those can be self-defeating thoughts. And when you say being honest with yourself, you know, you're not a dumb guy. You may have done dumb things. Is that kind of what you mean? Yeah.
So I was just using words that other people at my work would say, like, you're a dumbass. Why did they let you carry your weapon in Afghanistan? So if people are, okay, we'll use this as I love how you said that, because the way people speak about themselves, it's going to destroy.
Totally different than the way others talk.
Words are magic.
Absolutely.
You know, and I say it many times, literally in the word spelling, it says spell. Right? So I'll use the example, and you may have saw me talk about this online, is if I tell my kids Santa Claus is coming, what's going to happen?
They get excited for Santa Claus.
Yeah, Santa Claus is coming, especially if they're, you know, up to 8 years old or 9 years old or whatever. If I say the tooth fairy's coming, what's going to happen? Tooth fairy is coming. Now, if I called my kid stupid, or you're an idiot, or you can't read, or nobody likes you, what's my kid going to start to believe?
Oh, I'm just stupid and dumb.
Exactly. Yeah. Even though that's their personal choice, right? But kids don't understand that when they're young, but neither do adults, because we weren't taught that in school, right? We might have taught what's pi equal and what's 6 times 6. Nobody ever taught me, Ryan, you have power over your own emotions. You could choose. Nobody could ever make you choose how you feel. They can influence it, but you have the choice. So did I think those things about myself? I did. Was it wrong? Yes. I chose to be influenced by the way other people talk to me. So when it comes to self-belief, you have to believe, okay, I'm going to prove to them and the rest of the world that I can do it. And then you go out and you attack. It's like confidence, okay? A lot of times people say, well, I'm not confident. Self-belief and confidence go hand in hand. So when I tell people, like, okay, why are you not confident? Well, you know, I don't like the way I look. Good, change it. Well, you know, I can't read, but good, change it. And they look at me like, what the heck? My friend, you are identifying the specific reasons why you are not confident.
Yeah.
Self-belief and confidence is hand in hand.
They were doing their own self-appraisal right in front of you.
Buddy, amen to that. And when I get people, and when I do a course, I have them write down all their insecurities, like I did that day. That's your self-evaluation. You're writing down all your insecurities, self-evaluation. You're taking accountability that these are my insecurities. These are my self-limiting beliefs. Okay, now turn the paper over. And I want you to write how you could overcome it.
Yeah.
So for me, it was, I'm dumb. Well, I'm not dumb. I just didn't try, right? And we're grown-ups. This is the part you got to try. So I went and got a psychology degree because I thought that'd be tough. Then I got a family science degree, and then I started building small businesses, but losing the whole time. I just got crushed in a semi. I lost, but I'm learning. And when you realize when you're losing, it's a lesson.
It's perspective.
It's perspective. And it's like, all right, let me show God how strong I can be, right?
I mean, it's your job to show up. It's not your job to be in the result. I always say we're in the action business. We're not in the results business.
No, dude, I love that.
Isn't that a good one?
That is a good one.
It's not original. I didn't make that up. I will not take credit for that. However, somebody wise told me, I'm in the action business. I'm not in the outcome business.
I do love that.
Yeah.
I do love that. You know, and all my words are taken from somebody else. That's what's amazing in life is we read and we listen to really kind of what we become. But of course, we're all on our own mission throughout life. But those that influence you, that's your character.
It goes back to the mosaic thing. Like I said, I feel like I'm just a mosaic of everybody I've ever been and met in my entire life.
I love that.
You know, because I try to take a little bit from everybody and try to learn as much as I can from somebody. And then now you got me. That's literally the recipe for me, is how many people I met in my life.
Man, and that is we'll get on connection soon, because I love that, and I think we need to address that. But after we believe in ourselves, after we write, like, okay, I need to do this, and this, without you even knowing that, you're planning. You're planning what you need to do. So that's step number 4, is you have to make a plan. If you don't have a plan, you don't have direction, right? I got addicted to drugs after high school because, I went to the military, but then I got home and it's like, okay, well, what's my plan? I just one weekend a month.
Yeah.
I'll go to the coal mine, but oh my gosh, I have all these days off. What am I going to do? People always ask me, Ryan, how do you do so much? I capitalize on every minute that I have. If I have nothing to do, I'm writing another book. If I got nothing to do, I'm hanging out with my family, first of all, if they're around me. But I'm always looking for opportunities to, okay, what do you want me to do? Right? Doesn't mean I don't have fun. Doesn't mean I don't have time. Some days I have a lot of time. Some days I have no time. But when you're planning, think of it like this. You know, we're in San Francisco, so there's boats, right? Now, if I'm from Utah, so if I got on a ship and I just went straight out into the ocean, you know, for a day, right? And I had no plan, no compass, no map, no sense of direction, how would I get back?
No, you'd be fucked.
I would. Absolutely. And I like how you put it, because that's the straight answer right there.
Up Schitt's Creek.
Yep.
In the ocean.
Yeah, and that's what people don't realize. They're going through life like life is going to give you success. That doesn't happen. I learned that when I threw my cap and gown in the air and said, I got a good personality. I'm going to the military. I'm going to make it. And then in 2 years, I was a drug addict.
Yeah.
Because life just doesn't give you success. You get what you work for. It's like when I was in Afghanistan, I would see people go out and work in their crops. And I thought, man, we don't do that. We just go to the grocery store and buy our food. But that's how they live, or they follow the sheep around, and wherever the sheep graze, that's where they live. Whatever you nurture is what grows. Therefore, whatever you nurture in the dark will come to light.
Love that.
Yeah. See, and I didn't know that when I was young. I just would, you know, in the light, I would be all good. But in the dark, I'm working for the wrong guy and doing the wrong things.
Shady.
And that showed up in the light. So plan for good. Well, I don't know how to make a plan. Okay, think of it as a staircase. I did this with a trucking company. I bought a trucking company with no CDL, no business, nothing. And I thought, okay, what do I need? I need a trucking business. Bam, that was the top of my staircase. And then I literally, on a piece of paper, drew steps. And then I got on the phone with a guy that had a truck. Hey, dude, I'm learning how to do a trucking company. Could you help me? Okay, yeah. People will always help you. Not all people. Sometimes you'll have to pay for people. But if you have the right connections and somebody truly you've built a relationship where it's not like, dude, you just want this from me. But everybody you know has knowledge that could help you. I said, dude, I'm thinking about buying a trucking company. Could you give me all the steps you know? Step. And then I thought, oh my gosh, the missing steps. Whoever I buy the truck from, his name is Carlos Gomez. I said, dude, I'll buy your truck if you walk me through all these steps, because I don't know how. So when I bought his truck, he took me to every place I needed to get all of my certificates and everything I needed. So by the time I got done, not only did I have a trucking business, I took over his route.
Nice.
All because I was not afraid to build connections and relationships. Look, I can be a drug addict. I could fail college 4 times. I could be the underdog, overlooked. Those are all things that other people have said about me. And I'm going to change the way I think, because I'm a champion. And I've learned that successful people follow a formula, and it's the same steps that other people have used in front of them. Writing books. Did I know how to write books? No, dude, I can't even spell still. So what do? I hire people that know how to write. I hire people that know how to get the books online. It's creating teams like a basketball team.
Sure.
I'm a point guard, dude.
Yeah.
I can't play center. But if I get the right people in the right positions during a plan, that's how you do it. And then the step 5 is, after you make a plan, after you believe in yourself, after you take accountability, after you do the self-evaluation, is what? One of the scariest things people never do. Take action. Because they are too afraid to finally have their plan in hand. They believe in themselves and they're running towards Goliath. One of my favorite stories. They're running towards Goliath, and then they realize, oh, he's too big. Crap. One of my new country songs coming out, it talks about being a man, working till we're tired and our bills are behind and our kids, and we're trying to help everybody. And it's like, man, life is beating me down. The American dream, that's literally what it is. It's a dream. It was the dream, and we're all chasing the dream. So what dream do you have? It's like a seed. Plant it, nurture it, watch it, and sometimes it won't even grow.
Yeah, but without action, people...
Without action. Yep.
Going back to what you were saying, like life just is not going to hand people shit.
Yeah, it's not, and we're grown up. So this is the part. I had a boss that he in the coal mine, he'd say, this is the part you have to try. And I'd always be like, dude, like you're a jerk to the new guys, but you're like, sorry, bro. Like we're grown up.
Yeah.
Like this ain't milk and cookies anymore. And I chose, many of you chose, and this is what's so important about accountability. And like Jack was saying, like you're not dumb. You just made a bad choice. You have to forgive yourself. Without forgiveness, you're building, how we talked about building a house, you're building on a foundation that's not even built on truth, bro. It's gonna crumble. And the hardest part is being truthful. And this is what I did. And this isn't a spiritual topic. This isn't a religious podcast, but I am, if you're doing it without God or without a higher power, I think you're gonna struggle. And I'll tell you exactly what I did. I got on my hands and knees during my self-evaluation, and I told God every bad thing I've ever done. Not just drinking. I looked at porn. I did this. When I was 8 years old, I did this. I got it all out there, and I was in tears. But that was the first time in my life I was actually truthful, and I felt like I gave him a piece of me and was like, I'm ready. You know what I mean? And he knows you're going to mess up.
Sure. It's like a confession, right?
Okay, dude, let me say this. I love this. I believe in Jesus.
Me too.
Now, I love that, and a lot of your listeners, I'm sure, does, right? Imagine if Jesus was carrying the cross and all of a sudden said, I'm sick of you guys, and threw it down. You're going to mess up over and over again. Why am I even doing this? I don't even need to do this. Do it yourself. Pick up the cross. You know what I mean? Instead, we have a leader that's like, okay, I got this. He's already done it.
Yeah.
That's what people that realize, dude. He just wants you to be honest and say, hey, I messed up, but you've put me right here, right now on earth. Maybe I raised my hand and said, I will go through addiction. I will get crushed in a semi-wreck. I will be adopted. You want to give somebody those trials? Give them to me. Let me show you how strong I could be. That's how I think.
That's how I think now too,
Man,
for the most
that.
part.
I love that,
But
man.
without that routine in the morning and stuff,
Yep.
like I said, like I can quickly go back down the rabbit hole of,
Yep.
of the darker stuff that you were talking about, right?
Isaac Newton said, when it's in motion, it stays in motion, right? When something is in motion, it stays in motion. Now, let's talk about that. When you wake up and you do it, you should. If you miss one day, not a big deal. If you miss 2 days, dude, Rocky walk 3 days.
You're starting a new bad habit.
Yep, you're starting a new bad habit. That's what's terrible about people that grind it Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then take off till next Monday. It's like, what are you doing? Those are days where I've looked for opportunities to build other businesses, or honestly, let's get serious. I looked for opportunities to get my butt kicked in a different lane of life. But
Opportunities to get your butt kicked.
Yep.
I love that, because you do have to get your ass kicked
do.
in everything that you're doing. I don't think anybody was ever born and was like, oh, I'm going to be, a Warren Buffett. They talk about Warren Buffett and some of these bigger investors and all these rich people and stuff and all their accomplishments and whatnot. And you're like, what's the common theme there? It's
Yeah.
like they never gave up.
yeah, amen. And let's talk about that. The average child, when they're learning how to walk, falls down an average of 17 times per hour. So I remember when I was doing my rating, I'm thinking, maybe we were taught one of the biggest lessons of our life as a child. Now, imagine trying something 17 times before you finally stand up, right? But as a kid, we didn't know how to do it. We just saw other kids stand up, and we knew, like, wait a minute, we're supposed to walk. Let's try.
Mm-hmm.
You see, when I was learning to be a public speaker, dude, I would stand on the stage and I would forget my own speech. I would forget my own music. But instead of cower down and walk away, I stood up and said, I'm a professional and I forgot my speech. I said, life is about learning, and today I'm going to learn and we're going to work through it together. And I got out a piece of paper and I started reading my speech to them. You know what I mean? But I knew one day I was going to speak in front of thousands of people. I would go to the rodeo arenas and I would talk to empty arenas. I'd go to the baseball field because I never wanted it to be a habit of seeing the same thing because I was going to different audiences.
Sure.
And then I would go to troubled youth homes and drug rehab centers. And I would say, hey, could I tell my story? Churches, hey, could I tell my story? And now I just go in and I share the steps, those 5 steps. And then now my new book, I learned from other people, but I wrote a book on it, the 5 C's. It comes back to choice, right? Which is almost the same as it was self-evaluation. It's your choice. And then after choice, what do you need? You need clarity. Clarity is like if somebody is wearing glasses, and let's use that window. If I needed to look in the other room and see what's going on in there, I need clarity, because if that was all muddy, I can't see what's going on in there. It's the same with our goals and dreams. If you don't have clarity, I wanted to be a motivational speaker. That was clear, very, very clear. Okay, now what? Okay, now I need consistency, which is step 3. What's going to consistently need to be done to take me there? And then number 4 is community or either connection. Right? The right people. Michael at APB, he brought me here through you guys to come in here and hang out and better the lives of people around us through steps, right?
Big shout out to Michael.
Yeah, what a guy, man. As soon as we first talked, he just amped me up. But it's those connections that you build with other people that are going to help you. You see, people think sometimes that they're going to do it all by themselves. Shame on you, man. That's not how life was meant to go.
No siree.
It was meant to help other people. That's what the best leaders do. And number 5 is courage. So you need to identify what makes you not courageous. Like David, when he ran towards the giant. Your giant might be addiction. Your giant might be pornography. Your giant might be, whatever it is.
Trauma.
Identify it. Thank you. Trauma. Yes. And then run towards it. And in the Bible, David said, I got God. Let's go. You know what I mean? He started running. He was out, man. He got a slingshot, dude.
Well, that's the thing. They said, when David asked to be a king, what did God do? God did give him a crown. He gave him Goliath.
I love that. And I just read that not too long ago. I love that.
Again,
Pumps me up.
Again, not original.
Yeah.
Not for me.
And we're all undermanned and overlooked, are we not?
Yeah. But I mean, listen, if it means perpetuating it, so what I say, it reaches somebody else's ears, then good. That's all I care about, because it struck me, so I hope it strikes somebody else, right?
I love that.
This segment of the Pull Podcast is brought to you by Heartwood Home Detox. So I remember being, at least early on in my recovery and getting to the point where they call it the jumping off place. It's a stages of change, right? And I'm in contemplation stage, whether do I want to actually do all this work in order to see if I can have a better life, or do I just want to go back to doing what I was doing? And I'm in this contemplation phase, and I got this thing called a sponsor, and he's helping me through the steps. And he basically said, you got to think of it like, have you ever seen Indiana Jones?
Yeah, years ago.
There's a scene where Harrison Ford's sitting over like a pit, and there's he's got to get to the other side. And he doesn't know how to get to the other side. There's nothing there that he could do, but it says to take a step. He basically is at this place where he can't see the step. And as soon as his foot reaches that point, a step appears. It's blind faith, right? Yeah. And it's like sometimes you just have to trust that what you're doing is going to work out.
Yeah.
And then that's when the belief really gets behind the blind faith, right?
I love that.
And that's really what happened for me. I could say I've seen for a lot of people in this field that have had to have that blind faith initially, to just because we're so desperate at that point to change, right? And we're so beaten down that the only way is up at that point, and we're willing to do anything, and sometimes that's what it takes. It was for me, and I just remember reaching that point and then going through the actions that I didn't think were going to work for me.
Yeah.
Only to find out that they did, only to find out that I'm like you, man. I want to shout all this stuff from a mountaintop, man. I want everybody to hear this. This is why I'm doing a podcast, is because human life is so precious. And if we're losing people to addiction, if we're losing people because they're killing themselves or trauma or anything along those lines, it's like, that's the biggest resource that nobody talks about, right?
Yeah.
Is just the human spirit, the human ability to accomplish. They didn't even have a microwave 60 years ago. We got the internet.
Yeah, we got it pretty easy. We definitely have a different type of spiritual war, but it's definitely easy. I loved how you used the analogy of Indiana Jones. I do love that. And I love that you talked on pretty much flying on faith, right? There's got to come time in our lives where we have to prove that we are faithful, right? And, everybody has that moment where it's like, okay, I'm going to stand up as a baby even if I fall down and hit my butt. Okay, I'm going to go to school, or I'm going to graduate college, right? We have moments in our lives where we're taking the leap and we don't really realize it because that's just common, right? Graduating high school. Well, most people, that's just common. You just do it. You just know it has to be done. And
in my city, it was forced. Yeah.
Yeah, mine too. If you weren't even in school for a couple of days, they'd call your parents.
Exactly.
And I think now, like, the parents can get in big trouble.
Absolutely.
Like, it's a big deal.
Yeah.
And but let's talk about taking that leap. People are afraid to fall again, okay? And say you fall down the cliff and you get to the bottom, right? Rock bottom. I'm here to remind you, rock bottom is a beautiful place to build. Solid, great for a foundation. Been there many times.
Amen.
You know what I mean? Yeah. But what I love about, I hate rock bottom. I mean, let's get the truth out there. I hate struggling. I hate staying up late, not sleeping, you know. Even with Iran, dude, it's not like I'm going back to rock bottom. I've seen war. I've been there. And man, it keeps me up at night tossing and turning because I don't want to have people have to see those things or deal with those things, you know. But because I was there, which wasn't rock bottom, it was a experience, right? But there were moments I thought I was at rock bottom. It gave me the advantage because I've been at rock bottom to be able to help people who are at rock bottom. So always remember that you are at rock bottom. Yes, a lot of times because you put yourself there, but you are there. So when you are there, what are you going to do differently that you didn't do last time to help you never go there again? And
your experience will benefit others.
Yep. And man, amen. And those 5 C's, you said it earlier, connections. Dude, your connections are so huge. It's not, you're going to be who you hang out with. I mean, I know that is watered down and everybody says it all the time. You are who you surround yourself with. Let me tell you this. I got to be on a panel with Les Brown. I shared the stage with Tim Grover, Marcus Luttrell. Let me talk to you about confidence and connections. Right? I put a HELOC against my house. I don't have all the money. People think just because I'm a speaker and musician, like I have all this money. I don't. I have opportunities and I'm going to do the best possible. And later on, if I'm blessed with the finances, thank you, God. But until then, I'm going to be myself. I got to this event. I took out a loan against my house, right? Still in the coal mines, took days off, showed up to an event. When I got there, I was dressed nice. I went around and I shook everybody's hands at the event. Hey, how are you? My name is Ryan Stream. I'm a motivational speaker. And I took an interest in them. Where do you live? You have family? Like, oh, your business. That's wonderful. And I did that at every table at this conference. And then I went and sat down in a regular chair. And I remember people looking at me like, aren't you speaking? I was like, oh, no, I'm not a speaker at this event. But I got their social media so they would follow me so they could see legit.
Sure.
And I always ask people, hey, let me, because it's connecting. Right. And one of the ladies that I shook her hand, she lives in Florida, and she's just like, I really love your personality and how you just meet people. I'm here just to learn. Like, I want to be where you guys are at one day. Right. And every entrepreneur, every business owner knows, like, unless you were blessed with all these finances or handed a business, dude, it's even at that, you're still grinding.
100%.
And anyway, she's like, well, I really like you. Would you like to come to my event? And I'm thinking, I just spent all this money I didn't have on this event, but I didn't want to say no because this was like in a room of high level people. And she's like, yeah, you could be on the panelist with Les Brown. And I was like, what? So I met Les Brown. We talked, we had lunch, you know, he hugged me. We had an awesome moment. And I wrote down everything Les Brown told me, all of the advice, but I lost the paper.
You didn't lose the experience, though.
I did not lose the experience, but psychology tells us after 24 hours, it doesn't matter what you listen to, 70% of people forget. After 10 days, 90%. After 14 days, 98% of people forget. So the point of the story is make connections, write things down until they become a habit.
Yeah.
And always look for an opportunity to shake a hand and be confident.
Like when you just have 2 authentic people sitting down doing a podcast, like the energy builds, you know?
Yeah.
You know, and I feel like the wave got higher today for sure.
Dude, I love it. I love it. And moments are so powerful. What was your moment? I know we've talked a little bit. I'm curious. What was like your moment?
Honestly, like I said, mine was grace. Yeah. Mine was, you know, drinking myself out of my second job the same exact way I did my first one, trying to get into recovery, but not willing to do the work yet because I thought I was different, you know, just thinking that I was not the same as these people. So it wasn't going to work for me. You know, whatever my addiction was probably telling me at the time to keep me in it. Right. Yeah. That's the worst part is like, you know, whether it's a disorder, whether you think you're born with it or not, like, I don't care whether you think it happened as a result of trauma, like it doesn't really matter. Right. right? Like the way I see it is like, I don't want to fucking argue any of that shit because the reality is I had it. You know, the reality is that like I was a full blown alcoholic and absolutely needed my next drink.
Yeah.
And because I lost everything again, I couldn't tell you. It was April 16th of 2015. I woke up, and the same way I woke up, you know, the last 3 weeks before, except I was drinking a handle and a half a day, and, you know, getting drunk 3 times around the clock, ready to lose my place, just waiting for the eviction notice to come, like have no money incoming, literally on my floor, could barely get up, know my health is failing, could feel my organs failing, and made that last phone call. And for whatever reason, thank God, my parents, I have the best parents ever. That call was a little less difficult to make because I think they've known the whole time that I was struggling. And I'm fortunate that they were there one last time. Not everybody gets a chance to go to treatment. I would love to see the day where everybody that needs help is able to get it. Yeah. You know, and that's sort of awesome. Like whatever I can do, I promise I will while I'm here. I know I'm just going to make a small dent, but like, dude, I'm going to swing for the fences. You bet your fucking ass, man. Yeah. People are dying. Like I said, everybody talks about currency and everybody's worried about making money and stuff while people are dying. Like that's losing like the most valuable currency in the world, you know, human life.
You know, a lot of people that I've met that have made it, right? But let's put perspective on what's making it, right? Success is different to every single person.
Absolutely.
So if you're just chasing money, like I've seen people with a lot of things, a lot of money, and then they're not happy.
No.
Right? So purpose, right? I think people just really need to find their purpose, chase their purpose, and realize that there's no such thing as just making it. Mm-hmm. Being a podcast, somebody that started a podcast, you just don't make it. It's constantly working at it. Like making a shot. Okay, I made a shot. Now what? Get back on defense, play again. Mm-hmm. Instead of profits, look for purpose.
There you go.
Right? Because the fastest way to make money, if you're seeking money, there's only 2 ways anyway. It's sales and service, right? We're serving people by being on this podcast because we want to help them. We're showing them service.
Yeah.
Like, hey, here's the answers. Here you go. You might have somebody working, making sales, pushing the podcast or whatever. They go hand in hand. But my point is purpose. And be productive, not just busy, right? Because being productive, people, they're I'm working on my goals all day long, and then they're extremely tired. And it's like, okay, well, what did you do? Okay, all right, you worked on treatment, but show me on paper what you did. How were you productive? Mm-hmm. See, a lot of times people work so hard, but they're not productive. So they're just flapping their wings. And that was my problem too.
Yeah, it's like running in place.
Yep. Yeah, not fun.
Be like, I got a good workout, but I didn't go anywhere.
Yeah, I'd rather go somewhere, have that direction, you know. You know, let's talk about momentum, and sometimes momentum comes through other people. So I was living in my car on drugs, wanting to do better. And I had a Cricket phone, $49.99 back in the day.
Shout out Cricket.
Yeah, shout out Cricket. Look for sponsorship for a good podcast that sells people.
Need that 1998 Nokia that's indestructible.
Oh, goodness. If they had that back in the day, I would have got on that because I was on a budget. I would literally go to the base, work for 2 days, National Guard, spend all my money on my phone and drugs. I was an idiot. Mm-hmm. And I hate just saying that. But there was a person. He used to be a boxing coach of mine. His name was Rick. And he said, Ryan, he called me on the phone and said, I need you to meet me at a Mexican restaurant that was about 15 minutes from my place. He was coming from the country to the city. And I said, Rick, I can't. The bank's looking for my car. It was just on empty. Everything that could go wrong in my life had gone wrong. I had warrants out for my arrest. Like, it was just not good. And he said, Ryan, I just feel like that you need to meet me here. And so I drove, and he said, let me buy your lunch. And I said, hey, man, I just won't eat. I'm okay. And we ate lunch, and he just reminded me of, like, I love you, man. You're a star. Like, you know, he just talked me up. And then I knew when he stood up and put his hand in his pocket, he was going to give me money. And I thought, don't do that. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm going to use that on drugs. And I just don't do it. And he had $100 bill, and he said, slid it across the table. And at this time, I was getting my warrants taken care of, got out of jail, and I had like probably 2 months till I was going to Afghanistan. So I was taking care of everything by the law so I could go. And at this time, I was looking for change on the street, looking for food, right? Ramen noodles, at a box of macaroni, I would find money with my friend Van Ryan, who's a pilot now. Shout out to him. He had a dream of being a pilot, and now his dream came true.
Love that.
Yeah, absolutely. Anyways, he slid it across the table and he said, I'm going to give you this $100 bill. And I said, Rick, I can't take that. Don't give me that, man. And he's like, I am going to give it to you because I believe in you. And I believe that you'll pay me back. And he gave me the $100 bill. He hugged me. I remember going out to my car and I just was like, God, please let me die in Afghanistan. Like I literally said a prayer that said, please let me die. Because if I go to war, I die a hero. If I come back and become a drug addict, I die somebody who couldn't figure it out, sadly, is how I felt. And anyways, I went to war, man. You know, year and a half, 2 years went by, and I came back to his house. And he's like, what are you doing? You know, and he got up off the grass because he was laying down with his son-in-law. And I hugged him, and we talked. And, man, I was just so excited to see this guy. And he said, Ryan, why'd you pay me a visit, man? You know, no strings attached. He just, like, this is out of the way. You know, like, I really appreciate you, you know. And I reached into my pocket and I gave him a $100 bill. And I said, I appreciate you believing in me, Rick. You know, sometimes, my friends, all we need is one person. And many times I had my wife, you had your parents, and I had Rick. Somebody other than our parents, sometimes it's who it takes. And he said, I believed in you. I knew that you would pull through. You know, now that story's been heard by millions of people. So I told Rick, I'm going to take your name to all ends of the earth, man.
I love that.
And that was just somebody else being a hero. So those were 4 out of the 5 heroes in my life. And as you realize, none of them did something big. It's always the small things. And it's always somebody
small, kind act.
Cared about me. You just said it, small, kind act. So
yeah, absolutely. I love that. So what's your book's called?
My first book, the one that's hopefully coming here soon, it's called Conquering Your Coliseum. The second book is it's I Feel Like a Giant. It's a book on confidence. My third book is called Lead Like a Legend.
And that's not out yet.
It just barely came out.
Okay.
Barely came out, with a children's book called Heroes on the Playground.
Amazing.
Yeah, and it's my family that's in the book and my kids that are my friends in the book. So
how cool is that?
Yeah, it's a really, really neat story. I love it, man. I love this. I love doing this. And I am proof. You are proof. We are all proof that life could beat us down. That we can make bad choices that could turn out as good lessons so we can teach other people. You know, I always tell people, you're loved, man. Like, you are loved. I made a promise years ago, if you message me, I will respond. I'm not too big. That's all. People could message you back. I'm the one guy that will message 100% of people that write me back, as long as it's respectful to my marriage and to what God would read.
Sure.
Like, that's a promise that I made. I'm never too big for the world. I'm just a part of the world, and I'm trying to do my part. And, you know, hooking up with Michael at, you know, APB, that's just proof that if you do what's right, and if you do what consistency says will happen, and if you just do your part, there's going to come time, there's going to be somebody that has that puzzle piece that you need.
Absolutely. It's the missing piece in the mosaic.
Yeah, dude, I
just
love
to keep adding,
that.
to keep plugging my little thing in there, right?
That,
yeah, bring it full circle. Hey, Ryan, thank you so much.
I appreciate you guys. Thank you.
I really appreciate your time. You've been an amazing guest and an inspiration. And everybody that's listening, please go pick up the books and tune into the music too. You didn't even plug any of your music, but Jesus, you do fucking everything.
Hey, man. Rap, country, piano.
Let's get it.
You know, music's powerful. Music is the one thing that transcends barriers, and it speaks when words don't. Right?
I agree with that.
Vibrations and frequencies. And so, yes, I write music, and at first it was geared towards people who had addictions or who were adopted or kids that are struggling.
The underdog.
The underdogs. And then I realized everybody's an underdog.
Everybody.
Man. Everybody. Isn't that crazy? Even the people that you think have it all figured out don't.
Yeah.
You know, and the ones that are the best leaders are constantly being taught.
Well, you have an incredible underdog story. Really appreciate you being here. And anybody that's listening today, I guarantee you is off to a better start now.
Well, I appreciate that, guys. Ryan Stream is my name. Please, the music, the books, and most importantly, the relationships we could build. And I'm always here if you need me.
God bless you, man. Thanks again.
Likewise. God bless everybody.